Talofa lava. O lo uingoa o Abigail Elizabeth Alo, ma wau o le tene Samoa mai Aukilani New Zealand. O le tato polo kalame o le Reads with Rosa podcast ma le nei Vaiaso. O lo o ngā tasi ma le wha moe moe o le Vaiaso o le Gagana Samoa. E pei ona wha mana tuina I nei I New Zealand. O le taua o le Vaiaso o le Gagana Samoa. Ina ia sanga wha mautuina, ma wha ola ola le wha o ngā ina o le Gagana Samoa I tutonu o le ainga, I le aonga, ai maise I tutonu o e kalesia. A o tātou no nofo ma au mau I nei I New Zealand. O le autu mo le Vaiaso o le Gagana Samoa mo le nei sausanga e whaapea. Pou le loto I fale, ola manuia le ano fale. O si mai alo whaafufonga ma lau sila sila. O se whaau pōponga le nei o le tātou polo kalame o le Reads with Rosa podcast.
Talofa lava and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. I have been waiting ever so patiently for this interview. I'm trying really, really hard to contain my excitement and not behave like a crazed fangirl. But it is my honor to introduce to you all Dahlia Malaeulu from manuia in New Zealand. She is a mother, a fellow educator, and Samoan sister, and an author. Welcome, Dahlia. Welcome to the show.
Yay, finally. That's Talofa Rosa. Talofa lava, and thank you for the beautiful intro. Yeah.
I'm doing my top, right?
I know. It's so good to finally face-to-face meet because obviously online, obviously, as you do. Been meeting and chatting online and supporting online, which has been awesome, absolutely awesome. Love what you do for our stories.
I have no shame, man. I'm just like always, because there are not many of you. Yeah. There are not many of us. Our not just Pasifika, but specifically Samoan authors out there. And like I feel like if just getting something out regularly, just so other, my account is a Bookstagram account, so I have a lot of followers who always ask questions or ask about Pasifika books, and I'm always like, have you heard of this Samoan author? Like, I think every little bit counts. It's all about getting your names out there because there are not many of you, and if us who have Bookstagram accounts, if we're not promoting our own writers and stuff, then who is? So me, I have no shame. I'm always like, I love it because I see your posts and then I'm like, I post it and I like to add some more music. I love to add music to my stories. So then people are asking, what song is that? And I'm like, oh, this is an island, musician. It's like, there are not many of us in the world. So every little bit that we can do, it goes a long way. I think so.
Yeah. Amen. Like, seriously, like, you're not wrong. That's how my journey started. Obviously, nothing like searching, and that was only in the area of language. And then I was a bit of a late bloomer in terms of accessing and knowing about our Pasifika authors. I mean, there was a tiny bit, nothing compared to Palangi authors around the millions around the world. But the tiny bit that I knew of were kind of the intellectual ones, the ones that scholars and academics, and you're like, oh, yep, the one that, the ones that your parents tell you, vaile whanga le ainga o kele poko, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
Role models, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I just knew about them, and then I was a real late bloomer. Like, the first kind of brown book I saw was Witi Ihimaira, who's a big Māori author here in New Zealand, Aotearoa. And then it was kind of from there that I was like, oh my gosh, we're in books. Like, when did this happen? It's like, whoa. And then it wasn't until university. Like, I actually heard names. I had found Lani went when she had released her Te Le Sa series, and I was like, what? Where and just being able to see the elements of our culture, the language, it blew my mind. Like, I was like, man, we're good enough to be on books. Like, this is crazy. Like,
Exactly.
so, yeah.
I mean, I read somewhere that you said you became an author by accident. And I was just like, hey, by accident, how does that even happen? I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because as an educator, I've always loved learning. So I've always been I've always kind of fancied myself a bit of a chameleon, a very much of a, if I didn't know something, then we learn about it. You learn more about it, you know better, you do better. So when I found out there was no books for my own children, ngangana books, and it went from one word, one picture to straight fluency texts that just sat on teacher shelves or just sat in cupboards that nobody could ever access or would want to go find, because it kind of freaked them out that it was like, whoa, full text. What kids read that? You know, or how am I going to support kids as the teacher to do that when I have no idea about this language or culture? So never really saw the full immersion text. I did as an educator, but parents and families don't necessarily until they get sent home. So I had this big gap. And then I thought, what the? My kids pass the one word, one picture to, and they need the next step. And the next step isn't fluency. It was like, it's like there's a difference here.
Big jump from
it's a huge jump. And I think a lot of that, they were resources to me. So I was like, man, we need some resources. Or my own children need some resources. I knew their ngangana needs because I was trying to fill that gap for them. And then along that way, I kind of had to uncover my own ngangana journey. And then it led to the Mila's My Ngangana series, but I had developed them for my own children as like social learning stories. And they kind of help to convey messages, social learning or social skills messages, social learning skills messages. And then I would just integrate the ngangana into that, because then it was almost, it wasn't as, what's the word? Now I'm getting lost. It's not as obvious. It was almost within the learning context. Of cleaning up a room that my son was learning tasilua, talofa, picking up the different things. And then I was like, man, I'm going to do this for more books. And then I did more. And then he was learning to kapenga his poku and count and so on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Like, why hasn't anyone done this? I would have my children doing for hours ages ago.
I mean, I just, because I didn't realize. I think when I discovered Gagana Samoa, which we'll talk about later, I didn't realize that you had already been developing these language books, you know, for young children. And I was just like, wow, what's taken so long for our people to get books out there? Because, you know, I mean, I'm sure you remember this, like coming through school. I don't remember anything that had stories about us or stories that had characters. You know, I dreamed about, you know, being the hero in the story, but it was never like what we imagine, you know, a Pasifika or Samoan hero to look like. Do you know what I mean? We didn't have people that looked like us, or were writing stories. So just the fact that you know, I know there are a few more people now starting to put these books out there for you know, bilingual books. I think it's great. Like, you know, like.
And it was just a starting point. Like, that's what I realized when I look back on the journey now. Like, that was in 2014 I started writing them. 2016 got picked up by a publisher. 2019, see, that's how long it ends up, you know. 2019 it was actually released. And when I think about it, even when they wwere published, I don't think I was in the mindset of that I am an author. Like, it's taken me a time. Like, it took me until Lani told me face to face that she goes, no, that makes you an author. And I was like, what? I'm just writing one sentence, one Samoan word, you know, and I couldn't get over it. And it's exactly what you just talked about, because the world that we were raised and got brought up in, we never saw ourselves as authors. it never valued our stories.
Right.
Even the one sentence stories about kapengaing a pokumoe, like it was nothing special, because that was just what we knew, and within our culture we knew. So it took me some time to kind of grasp the concept and get my mindset around that I am an author, but it also goes to show what the world tells you and the impact of that. Because it's not just our stories. You look on TV, what music is being played. You know, you look at the curriculum. I mean, both of us being educators, what's being valued and assessed. You know, it's not how well you are at doing White Sunday koloko. You know, it's how well you write in English with their structures, with their ideas of what an author is. So
ideas of what perfect English, you know, this whole idea of perfect English, as opposed to it's this ever evolving, you know, developmental process when you're writing that do you know what I mean? Because that's what that's what I remember, like, this is the perfect way to write a sentence, or this is the perfect way to pronounce this word, you know. So
yeah. Honestly, and that's another revelation I've had as an author. What I've been able to be exposed to. I'm so very grateful and blessed on this journey so far. But honestly, Sunga, like the idea that we have as writers of what writing is and how we prepare our kids in writing, in the subject of writing, is absolutely almost different to the actual trade and educational, or maybe publishing, more so trade publishing, writing in a way, because I've seen writing that has been straight conversational, which makes me go, Islanders do, like, we orally storytell like this all the time. We come from storytellers, and we have those skills, but then when they're not valued, or where there's no space for it to be valued or developed or provided for opportunities to be showcased and shared, that's when we don't get to see it, unfortunately. But then you have a look at spoken word that's happening now. Look at our young kids. And they've had it the whole time. Like, so they've got the tools, and I just feel like as educators especially need to provide those opportunities. But also the reality of what writing is like in the world is huge, and I had no idea. Like, there were poems that were 1 word, 2 word free, and I was like, it doesn't even have capitals. I was like, and this is an award-winning poem, and I was just looking at it like, oh nah, like, if you told me this,
why didn't anyone tell me this, right?
I know. When I think about, oh my gosh, Samati, when he was in my class and we were arguing about capitals, like, it's like, hey, Loa, you are right. Like, you are actually right. You could be a published, award-winning author. And you've got these beautiful ideas. Don't have to have full stops if you want to be a poet. You can speak in your everyday language, and I think that was part of the whole journey that I've been on, and I'm still going on, because it's just these revelations of, like, man, you can do that as a writer. Like, when I write, I find I write every day, like an everyday conversation, and I feel comfortable like that, because it's almost like the conversations I have in my head. It's like, and they've never been ones where it's like descriptive and like fantastic, fantastical and
technical language, academic language. I mean, you know,
and there's some beautiful pieces that I absolutely love and that I connect with, but maybe it's not. I just find, like, with the books that I love to read and prefer, they're really almost like real life books. I love autobiographies. I love learning about events and experiences and histories. So then I think that's probably where my kind of writing comes from. And I got told the other day, they were like, oh, I love the way that you write, because it's so simple and it's everyday and it's broken down. And then I was like, oh, thanks. I didn't really think of it like that.
Okay, so I wanted to just backtrack a little bit and talk about education. I mean, I know we're weaving in and out. It's great. I love it. Fantastic. But your journey as a teacher, I wanted to share because you are also a contributing author to eTangata, an online platform, which I love, which I'll also put in the bio once we, drop the episode. But you wrote an article recently that it resonated with me so much. Like, I got super emotional. Not even lying. It was called. No, I've got actually 2 of your articles. It was called. Let me scroll. Rejecting the system. And I got super emotional reading it. And then, furthermore, at my school we have anti-racism education focus group, and I shared the article to our group. And our head of school, I mean, she read it, she made notes, and she had a lot of questions. But basically, the reason why I shared it with them is because I said, this is Dahlia Malaeulu, Samoan author. This is my experience. Like, this is, a lot of the things she's saying in this article, that's kind of where I come from in New Zealand. And so then, I was so like feeling super emotional, but I was so proud to share it with my focus group, just because, obviously the whole, diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism it's real big at the moment. And in international schools, I really just wanted them to kind of understand that, like, just because we're an international school, educational institution, it doesn't mean that, these are some of the experiences that I'm coming with. This is like this is me coming through as a teacher, that you were speaking as so courageously and articulated it so, well. But I was super thrilled that there was, some good feedback from my group. And I just said, this is just my experience. So, I didn't come from privilege. I wasn't brought up like, this is my first experience here in Japan at an international school. And it's been an amazing, like, as an educator, like, learning experience, huge learning curve, but so different, from where we come from. So I just, now that I finished telling my story, let me get back to the point. This article, man, you are so courageous for writing that. Like, seriously, talk about real talk 100.
Hard. I fifth lover, Rosa. It was honestly a reflection that I had in my head. It started last year, obviously, with all of the racial tensions happening around the world. I was working because I also do facilitate professional development workshops for schools, and I was doing a couple last year, post-COVID, and I was just real interested to see how schools would deal with what was happening globally. Like in America, George Floyd, all these huge major racial events, racially charged events. I was just very interested, without kind of being the facilitator, to kind of sit back and to kind of go, well, education, like, hello, schools, are we not the like number one learning place to kind of go, good, bad, or ugly? What's the learnings in this, and what are we going to be doing for our students? And it was really interesting because I saw, and I had a lot of feedback from different schools that I was dealing with, that not much was happening. Like, it was almost like the Band-Aid's been ripped off. What do we do? And the default is challenging conversation, quite confrontational. How do we deal with racism? We've never had to in this light. What should we do? And I think a lot chose to do to remain with their default, which was, hey, let's acknowledge it, maybe have a little class talk, and then just, okay, we're back onto assessments next term, blah, 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 make sure you're doing, and then it's like, wow.
Right.
Really? And I saw all the arguments online. I mean, there were people literally contributing to social media platforms that were highlighting, about why are we having now New Zealand Māori history. Māori history is coming up, and why is this happening? And you're just like, wow, like these tensions, yes, globally, and they were calling for us to look at them nationally, I felt. So then I felt like it really brought out the best and the worst of people. I mean, depending on how you look at it, people were willing to reflect and able to kind of bring some awareness to themselves of like, oh, my life, I have never heard of white privilege before. I never realized that this was the experience that you were having. I had a best friend of mine who I've grown up with my whole life who literally apologized to me. And I was like, girlfriend, it's okay. Like, it impacted her that much in the world that she said she had no idea. Like, obviously, everyone knows, a lot of people know, Black American history. So we know parts of that, but then it made a lot of our own people also go, we don't even know our history. Like, what about the people that, like, the indigenous people here? What about the Pasifika peoples who were brought here? Like, so a lot of those questions were raised for me, and it was interesting for me to see those that play out, like the post actions of schools and the education system, and so it really got me reflecting on my own experience. And I got asked about my own experiences within the education system around racism, and whether I had experienced it. And I honestly had to think about it, because I've explained this before to a few colleagues that, when you're young and you get into it, you do anything and everything. You're like, oh, okay, what's the new teaching world? Sweet. Okay. Was that a bit, like, that wasn't racist? Oh, no, they didn't mean it. It's okay. Oh, I've had that all my life. It's normal. No, I can't just carry on. But now that I'm older, I've got family, I've got children, I've had more experiences. I know myself a lot more. I know I'm more secure in myself and my identity and my culture and language. Understanding more of my own history. Like, I didn't even know our own history. And just going through that journey has made me kind of who I am today, to kind of realize, yeah, actually, my voice is pretty important. And as Pasifika, so not me as an individual, but just as Pasifika, our voices are so important. And that it should be shared, because how else will they learn that what is happening isn't right, or it is not supporting us, helping us to achieve. And then you think of our kids, so that piece really came from a reflection of all of that.
I mean, I think, like you said, it made you think deeply about you coming through the system. And it did for me here, like living here in Japan. And then people were asking me, what is it like in New Zealand? Surely, you did it. And like, honestly, I think I did start remembering, because as people of color, you just, like you said, when people tease you and they say your name incorrectly, and like, I was that student where people couldn't say my name correctly. I didn't tell them my full name, because it's hilarious, because even though I shortened it to Rosa, and people still like, hi, Rosa. And I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you did not. So if, like, even that, like, it's one of those things, you're just, as you're growing up, you're kind of like, you're first on the attendance roll, and the teachers, you're just kind of like, yeah, that's how you say it. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
You're not even making any effort to try and say, oh, well, how should I say it? How would you like? Nah, I'm just like, can you hurry up? Because it's so embarrassing, those kind of things. And then even comments, that teachers make, or even, stereotypes and preconceived ideas they have of us and our people, like, when you do sit and reflect and think back, and then you realize, oh, because it was just normal for us to just kind of like brush it off. Because like, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people say, like, and I can agree with this, you're sent to go to school and you don't question the teacher. And I've shared this with some of my colleagues here. They can't believe it when I say it. They're like, but because we talk about, like, now as adults, and we're in, educational institutions, you're an adult, so why didn't you speak your mind? But I think just, I'm always a bit hesitant to share, like, is it a safe space? Do I trust that these people are not going to judge my, my ideas and things like that, suggestions? So, you know, coming through school, you didn't question that. You didn't question the teacher in history or geography or English. What they said was word, you know, it was bond, it was everything, that because they were the educators, they were the ones. And so, you know, it was like, you know, parents would say, I want to feel you just get us, you know, you know, when the teacher speaks and stuff like that. So that was what it was. And when I tell people, they're just like, that's so weird. And I go, but it's a cultural thing as well, because you don't want to be, you don't want your parents dragged to school. They're already working like long shifts, you know. You don't want them, they have to, you know, speak to their supervisors, take time off to come to school because you got called out or you get in trouble. You know, there are all those things. And definitely, you know, with the socio-political climate last year, I mean, people talk about the uprising as if it was just last year. And no, it was like, you know, back in Ferguson, like 2012, 2013. But I think definitely like the Black Lives Matter, like it just kind of like, you know, I think it was an opportunity, like everyone around the globe, you know, people of color, BIPOC people, it was the first time we were able to kind of like speak out and say, you know what, actually, you know, that's what's up. That's actually what happens. Yes, we have been, you know, there have been many injustices, and of course, you know, different racial groups, different ethnic groups have different experiences. But I think it's just, you know, what better time to amplify voices, our Pasifika voices, because even we have stereotypes about other cultures. Even like it really made me aware of even things that I say, like jokes that we make about other cultures, you know, because it's not always, you know, I think a lot of times our people are like, oh hell no, they did not just get racist on me and then they start yo, you need to hold up, because what are some of the things that you say about like Indians or about Chinese or about, you know. So I think it's definitely been, and like as educators, it's just ever evolving, you know, process, you know, always checking yourself, always be reflective.
Because and I think that's it, Rosa. Like I think you absolutely nailed it on the head. So in culturally responsive practices, like it's starting with yourself. It's not going, I know what I know and what you know is wrong. So you need to fix that. It's actually, I need to start in here and I need to unpack everything that I've been taught and unconsciously have put on myself and unconsciously letting out in my actions, words, attitudes, jokes, all of that, and examining that and having that reflection. So then when people start doing that, that's how I had my friend coming to me and apologizing. And I was like, whoa, you know, I'm not even Black and African American. It's okay. Like, it's all right. She was like, no, I actually realized, and we had this huge conversation. From that to Aborigine people to Maori to Pasifika, like all people of color. Like, this is our story. And that's a huge theme that I'm finding in all the stories that I'm creating. Like it is literally all the articles I write. Like that's the number one message. Like, oh my gosh, sis, this is my story. And I'm like, exactly. So when everyone says, man, your story, it's really touched me. And I always just say, well, it's our story. It is in fact our story. It may not be word for word, may not be detail for detail, but the experiences are similar. And it just takes us in sharing, each and every one of us. We need to keep sharing these experiences. And as uncomfortable as they can be sometimes, it's almost like being at peace with yourself and ready to be able to share with the right intention. So I could have named, blamed, and shamed like so many more, because there was way more experiences. Those were just like the top few, like, you know, like so many. But the idea behind it is, you know, you start in one place, you have that realization, you have these experiences, the so what's next? Are we going to stay in that and stick in that? Or we're going to try to better ourselves, be better united, be better connected, be more understanding of each other, so that we can be better for the next generation. And I just feel like, is that not our job as educators? Like, we are meant to be preparing our tamati for the world, and as the world's not perfect, and I don't want our kids to have a kind of education where it's basically another it's got elements of cultural amnesia in it. like being colorblind to the world, because our kids are pretty clued up. They're getting woke. They be staying woke at the moment with all the access that they have to the world now. We can't be going, okay, let's just go back to reading, writing, and maths. It's like, no, we need to be able and have the tools and the skill set to be able to go there with our kids, because they absolutely know. And that's like with the Tēnā Samoa project, like we hear the students' voices, and it's like, mate, they know. Like, why are we acting like they don't know? But those who are outside our culture may not necessarily know, and that's the whole learning part. Is like we need to tell our stories, all of us tell our stories, share our voices, so that we can be better understood and connected with, as well as us connecting with others, and be able to form that kind of bridge that gap of understanding, so that they can learn better. Because how else are they going to learn? Because for so long, like you said, culturally, what have we been doing? Head down, don't say anything. If you do, you stick out. If you do, you're koklakiki. If you do, you're going to be getting in trouble from mum and dad. It's just school, be quiet, get what you need to do, get a good job. And it's like, why should we have to suffer? And then we end up sacrificing our language, our culture, who we are along the way. Like, that's the price, you end up paying. And I think our generation, who's been through the system now, our parents came here on their boats, our grandparents came here on their boat, they came head down, be quiet, don't make a big fuss. We've been through the system and we've succeeded, and we have come out the other end, and we're now looking back and going, yeah, we could have done that a lot easier. And we could have a lot less issues in terms of our cultural and language loss, identity issues, the mental welfare and well-being of our kids and of ourselves. So we could have done that a whole lot better. And I feel like that's where this that's what gets me excited, because when we have this talanoa, and when we have us speaking up and speaking our truth, and our experiences, our voices are lifted and we're amplifying it. And it's something that can't be ignored. So that's why I really, really enjoy us having this talanoa. So important.
Yeah. You mentioned Tēnā Samoa. I mean, I think what really got me about Tēnā Samoa, because I think I discovered it on Twitter. I think that's where I discovered it. And then it was only later that I followed you on Instagram. But when I discovered it, I was so curious. Then I downloaded the ebook because at that time it hadn't been released. So, because I think you officially launched it during Samoan Language Week, but I had read it like a few months before. But I think what really got me about Tēnā Samoa, I don't know if I was like sad or, I don't know, to be honest. It just, again, the stories resonated with me. What made me kind of sad was, like generational, just the fact that these young girls, young people are still going through these same, they are experiencing these same emotions and some of the stories that we were going through growing up. And that made me sad, because I think, sometimes we are our own worst enemy and we hold ourselves back. Sometimes there are these stereotypes, stereotypical jobs that you must get into. You must follow in these particular steps. You must become this person, as opposed to, explore, step out of your comfort zone, step out of the traditional roles and things like that. So it was just so kind of like, wow, that just the fact that these young girls are just, these stories are still being told, and it's, 2019, 2020, like, I'm not saying it's sad. Like, I mean, it made me feel some kind of way, like, wow, just because it resonated with me. And I was like, I just want our young people to just, see the world, explore, and I feel like sometimes, because this is what I experienced, growing up, like we're just people just want you to just be, and to do this because everyone else is doing it, and that if you step out of the mold, then it's bad. And it's not bad. It's not bad to be a dancer. It's not bad to go into construction. It's not bad to not want to be a doctor. Like there's nothing wrong with being those, going into those careers. But our kids these days, there is so much more out there for our young people. Like the world is a huge place, and we need to celebrate successes, no matter how small, no matter how, and even if it's not, even if it's someone that's going into a career path that you wouldn't normally, or dreaming about something that you normally wouldn't celebrate, we need to be giving people their flowers and acknowledging that and saying, hey, your dreams are super important, not just his dreams or her dreams. So I know I'm rambling a bit, but it just,
Hey, it's so good.
that part of the stories was like, wow, like different generations, and yet it's still kind of like hits you here.
Yeah. No, I honestly, that's why, like, and when I wrote it, it was like, again, like I swear, it's like my reflections. Like when I write, it's like I kind of go into reflection mode and just start writing. And it literally took me back to college. It took me through to university. It took me to all the conversations in Talanoa that I've had with aunties and uncles and their perspectives on things. Yeah. It's so interesting. And it just made me realize there's just so many different perspectives at play that we don't realize, and you're not going to realize when you're a kid, because it's like, oh, this is happening to me, this is my world, oh my gosh, how can this be? And then when you look at your parents, they're a product of their environment. Their ideas of success that were placed on their shoulders become ours on our shoulders. But we're now living in a different environment. We're a product of a whole different environment. The access that we have to the world, we're now seeing things like, actually, on Insta and on Facebook, man, I like that post, how she's saying, she's complaining about this, and that's happened to me, the pronunciation of names. So I feel like we're aligning ourselves a lot more, and a lot of our voices are now being heard because we can see. It's like we can see our own experiences, how you're talking about things resonating with you. That's the first step, I reckon, is when you are able to see something. When you see yourself in things, then you'll be able to hear or be able to be heard. And then only then will we be valued. And those steps, I always feel it's that way. And then, so that's what made me think about including the parents' perspectives. So that kids kind of go, oh, true. It's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, even the
thinking I'm a prisoner at home with all my vows.
Exactly. Even the parents' perspectives made me giggle because, it's like you do, like exactly like you said, you grow up and like, oh, I'm stuck, my life. But not even thinking about the sacrifices. Like now it's so hilarious because I look back and I remember, sometimes there are days when I remember something that my mom said or a lesson learned, or a hiding,
all the threats and all the threats in the world. Like.
And then I realized, man, there was me complaining, but just the hours that we're spending at work, the sacrifices, always making sure we had food on the table, so those things, you look back and go, oh yeah, I was a bit naughty. I was a bit, so I mean,
and that's why I also added the teacher element. So for me, I feel like my books always, for now anyway, they always have to have this element, this kind of trifecta of it. Yes, it has to be for our kids, for them to be able to be seen, be able to hear our language, so that they can be valued, but it has to be in spaces where our families are. So our books need to be something that families can be read to and read with their children. And then it also has to include our educators, because they're our teachers, first teachers. So when we talk about as educators, kids' first teachers are parents and their teachers. That's their world for a good 16 to 18 years of their life, first years of their life. They are the first teachers. So I feel like if we can kind of penetrate those realms and those minds of those people, that we can be a bit more connected and develop that understanding and bridging that gap. So that's why in the stories that I create, they are always created for those spaces, because that's where our te meti are. So that because there's just never been anything like it. I mean, you can't do it in silo. If you give it to parents, that's great. Yeah, kusi, yeah, because a lot of our parents traditionally go, that's your homework, but they don't understand that. Reading philosophy, reading at home, reading too. And it's not like our parents can't read. Like we're different generations now. Like they'll read the Puspaia, they'll read the Samoan newspaper, so they can absolutely, but they're not used to that style and way of learning. So that's them being a product of their environment. But and the same with teachers, they've been trying to engage with our parents, and they say with their whongos, with their school whongos and their family nights and their Pasifika evenings, that's the only time they come. And you're just like, no, don't make that the only time. Like we are actually relational culture. We are so relational. If you get the relationships right with our people, oh mate, they'll have your back. They'll be at your house if you need them. They'll be cooking for a fundraiser if you need them. So I feel like until we kind of connect better, understand each other, but it comes with this knowledge. Like some of the feedback from Balangi teachers that I've had, or just Balangi in general, who have read the book, have said to me, I didn't realize that within the culture that there are different levels of understanding. I thought all Samoans knew Samoan language. I didn't realize these castes may be treated badly. And you're like, yeah, within our culture there are issues. So that's within the community. There's gatekeepers too within our community, across the generations. And that's just within it, not necessarily, and that doesn't include the things that we have to deal with outside. So that's
I was going to say,
that's right. And that's why we end up with our te meti. They talk about in Teachers College, cultural capital. What the cultural stuff that you come with, and what the cultural capital that the education system values when you go into that classroom. Our kids come from a totally different world, different rules, different routines, slightly different values, language, those things, experiences, and then you get slotted into a system where you never see any of it, or you hardly see any of it, or not valued really day to day. So our kids have to deal with dual or multiple worlds. There's kids who are now Māori, Samoan, Tongan, Balangi, all in one kid. They have to navigate those worlds or exclude themselves from other worlds, like just to be able to cope. Compared to a New Zealand European student or child, who what happens a lot of what happens at home is usually reflected in the education system, like English, that they're supported in asking questions and discussions, and so that's just an example. But yeah, it's just Tēnei Samoa is very, very, it's quite a special book, because the whole Tēnei Samoa project that kind of blew me away, that part. Yeah.
It's awesome. I think if, like you said, it goes back to if you are not getting these stories out there, then when will they hear? When will they even begin to understand? Because I think also as New Zealand-born Samoans, just the fact that label of being a New Zealand-born Samoan is also another thing, because, as a diaspora, it's almost like, then we're not good at, we got those multiple layers of growing up in New Zealand, and then when we return to home, to the homeland, to our roots, and we're not, we're different, we're still different, and that we can't speak on certain things, and that we don't, and it's just like you can't win, and you see it on social media all the time. You can't talk because you don't live in Samoa. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
And what
it's
if
like,
I?
yeah, and it's
Like,
like, okay then,
yeah,
gatekeeper,
it's like,
you do your
yeah,
thing, you know.
it's like that's the
Like,
box I tick on the form. So
yeah, it's like we can't win, you know. It's like we like, you know, I love going to Samoa. I love, you know, when I go to Samoa, I truly holiday as in I go and I just love spending time akua with my dad's family and just listening to my auntie's stories. You know, that is true holiday for me. Because we don't get to do it often, it's usually, we're going to Samoa for Fa'alawelave, you know, funeral or something like that usually. So it's just, you know, those opportunities are very rare. So as much as I can, I love sometimes. We went in 2019, my brother and I and my dad. There were safais, and I just had so many recordings on my phone, memos, just listening to my dad and his two sisters yarning for hours and hours. But it's just precious moments. But you know, things like that. And then of course, when you come back to New Zealand, like it's hard to be like, I don't know where I belong. You know, even speaking the language and maintaining the language and our culture. You know, there are so many layers to it, and people don't understand that. You know, when you're born up, well, I know, okay, maybe I shouldn't assume, but it's just, you know, there are a lot of complex issues, I guess, is what I should say.
yeah, there are. There's huge issues around it that that we face and our Te Maiti face. Like the biggest hang up for me was the language for so long that, oh my gosh, you're not a fluent speaker.
Yeah, because you read another article called "Don't You Want to Be Samoan?" and it's about, you know, your identity and, you know, your Samoanness. I don't want to call it that, but you know, finding yourself, I guess. And that was also another interesting article as I read it, and I was like, oh, you know, just different experiences that we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just again another reflection of the different pieces of the puzzle coming together. Of how did it all start? Well, I thought I was Māori.
That was like, I mean, it was like, what was it?
Yeah, it was like, well, I mean, because we don't get sat down and go, you are Samoan, okay? And Samoans do this, say this, you know, laugh like this, eat this. Like it doesn't get like clearly delivered to you like that. You have to take the cues from the world that you're in. And I had Māori friends, I had Palangi friends, I had like one Samoan friend, and then that was it, you know. But so I was in kapahaka, I like led songs hard, and then it wasn't until they're like, oh, so what's your iwi? And I was just like, I'll go home and I'll ask my mum, okay, and I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, okay, fire, I'll be back. And then I come back home and my mum's like, like cracking up in my face, and I'm like, no, honest, like, it's like,
no, actually, what is my
iwi? This is my homework. Hurry up. And then then that moment happened, and then obviously my church sisters from Samoa Methodist Church, who I'm still very connected to today, they were my huge guides and blessings, and beautiful sisters who literally gave me the time of day, like to be like, this is what you got to do with the ipuki, okay, and then don't forget to say tulo, and you know. So they modeled all of that for me. And that was my, this is about Samoa. Oh, okay, I get it, you know. So they were my real teachers. And mum and dad were there too, but they weren't necessarily always equipped. Mum was amazing. She was a good teacher whenever I asked. But that's when I had the courage to have to ask, because that would be after asking dad, who would be like, huh? You know, and that's how long, well, you should know. And then you're like, when did I know? Like, when did you tell me? But they did their best. And then obviously going to uni, and then kind of going on that journey, especially as a mother, man, when you become a mother, it hits home, as in, what am I passing on to you? Like my parents, obviously, thankfully, they spoke Samoan all the time. They were fluent, and obviously through church things, everything. But I wasn't expected to speak that. So then that is there, and my biggest regret. So my dad, after reading Te Samoa, after having my kalangoanga with him, even before that, actually, when I had my questions, he said that he wishes that he had taken the time, but he was working. After work, it was making sure we were doing good at school. Then after that, it was church, and there was all these responsibilities and priorities. So then language and the world that we were living in didn't value it. So so it wasn't one of the priorities because the world didn't value it that we were living in. And he realizes that now. And so that was one of his own reflections after reading Tane Samoa, which is really cool to connect with. Yeah.
Man, that is, they must have been so proud of you though. Like, just to have a work out there, just to have it published and put out there. Because I was like, when you mentioned the publishing, like earlier on, like, is there funding out there for this kind of stuff, for Pasifika writers, or is it all self-funded? Are you like, how?
Yeah.
I mean,
So the first books, Mila's Gagana series, was picked up by my first publisher, Little Island Press.
Oh, yes.
Up in Auckland, and they there's a few publishers who are they are all about Māori and Pasifika, or they are very supportive and understand or have a mission where they believe our stories are really important to get out into the world. Little Island Press is one of them. My new publisher, One Tree House, is also another. Hoya Publishers in Wellington is another. Predominantly Māori and Pasifika publications that they release and launch. So those are kind of the publishing houses that I am aware of. There could be possibly more around the world or in different countries. But it wasn't until I got into this world that I realized that, you can apply for funding and grants. Oh, cool. And then when you kind of go through your own self-publishing route, which is what I did with Tane Samoa, you kind of have to go through it yourself to realize, is this how much it costs?
Right.
Because a publisher, when you go for a publisher, they cover it. They cover those costs, and you do the writing, you do feedback. The illustrator does their thing, the graphic designer or the book developer does their thing, comes for more feedback, and then you're like, launch, awesome. Like, it's taken care of, and I think that's the positive sides of going with a publisher. And that when you self-publish, beginning to end, it is you. So thankfully, I went through the ebook route because we were in lockdown for the fiction side of Tane Samoa, and that is free, everybody. So you need to make sure. That's why I keep telling everyone, just do story and just get it out on the ebook. Just do it. Just do it. Like, but within that, if you want to make sure, and I'm finding this now, like quality, like the quality of our stories. So I'm amazed, and I'm so supportive of those people pushing stories out there. But I want our stories to be of quality. Right. Like, I don't want them lost just because things like editing weren't taken seriously. Illustrations aren't actually connected to the text. I recently saw a story where totally a Samoan story, all in Samoan, obviously looked like a literal translation from an English story to Samoan. And the pictures, I couldn't believe that they were depicting us like that. Like, I was like, no, we don't wear shoes in the house while we clean up, right? I was like, did you consult like a Samoan cultural advisor? And
because that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't just be pushing it. You have to consider, I mean, culture is everything. The last thing you want is people calling you out. You're right. But didn't even do it properly. Like, those little things it's make or break.
Absolutely. And then I find that a lot of the authors aren't actually Pasifika. And then I'm like, oh man, like, and it irks me in the way that, like, I think, thank you so much. I'm sure the intentions are always there, which is beautiful and it's amazing. Thank you very much. But I'm such a believer that we are able to create and produce our own stories. Like we've said it earlier in the piece, that we come from storytellers. We storytell every day orally. You just need to listen to your parents on the phone. I'm like,
no arguments there.
Exactly. Like, seriously, we really are. And how you recorded your auntie and your dad talking, like it would have been all in story. So I feel like we definitely are capable of doing that, and that when I see non-Pasifika authors publishing our stories, I feel like I have a higher standard for it. Because I'm like, girl, it better be. You better know what we do.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's one thing to push the book out there without checking, details and things like that. But then the standard, why even bother if you're not even going to do the fact checking, do the cultural checking, all those important elements of who we are, our culture and values. Like, why even bother? Like, just write your own stories. Write your own stories, damn it.
And then that's what I feel with Tēnā Samoa. So I did the ebook all by myself, and then I did the Tēnā Samoa project. I always have these random bright ideas. I'm like, man, I want to show that this isn't just a made up story. Like, this is real life for us. Like, this actually happens. And then reached out to the 7 students and 7 educators.
That was awesome.
Got them on board because they're very supportive of the mission, of what I was trying to do. They're amazing students and educators. Worked with them, supported them through the process. I learnt the process of having to, work with contributing authors. So that was a new learning curve for me. Then being able to physically publish the book was a new learning curve, and obviously costs. You realize, real kusis mean real money. So then, so self-funded that, and then ended up being published. But I had gone through. I'm quite a stickler for like doing things right. Like if I do something, and I've been raised a door. Like you can't think about it, you got to do it. Follow up and follow through is so important. So I researched, and I knew that after I'd written the draft, it was going to a professional editor. So paid for that, worth the money, because they honestly, you think like, the story, that's the bomb, all good, done. The editor comes and goes, that doesn't make sense. Connected with that character. Where's this idea come from? And this word isn't even the right word. Are you sure you're speaking English? And I was like, gone through that. Amazing. Worth the weight in gold. And then obviously go through publication, learning about printing, learning all the different there's different paper sizes. I was like, and then different color paper. And then it was like I needed to see everything. I was in library seeing the kind of paper, and I looked like a real ballet, like all these pussies, like feeling the paper. And my paper. And my own kid's like, Mom, are we gonna get any books? I'm like, what does it feel like? And then honestly, did all of that.
I've been dying to ask you this, because I mean, I don't know, you already know this. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks, man. Like I love listening to memoirs. I love listening to like realistic fiction, real stories. And I just was always wondering, like, would you ever consider audio for Tēnā Samoa, or maybe a future book? Because I asked Lani Went the same thing, because I'm part of this Pasifika virtual book club, but it's usually done during during their day, so the time difference is when I'm in school. But the one time I was able to turn up was when they were interviewing Lani Went, and I literally just jumped on just to ask her, have you ever thought about doing an audiobook? No, I can't do, I was like, I didn't want to be part of an audiobook, but again, like I feel like you know, a lot more people are listening to audiobooks, and
Yeah.
I want to hear. I want to listen to our stories. I want to hear the voices behind the stories, or do you know, like, I feel that, you know, a lot of our young people, or just people in general, like, people talk about, I'm too busy to read. My students are like, Miss Rosa, I'm too busy to read. I'm like, okay, let's figure that out. And now a lot of them are listening to audiobooks and enjoying it, so they can clean and help mom with the dishes while they're listening to audio. And I just feel like, you know, a lot of our kids would benefit from audiobooks in general, but I would love maybe one day to be like, I'm listening to one of Lani Went's stories as an audio, or Dahlia Malaeulu's novel. I don't know. Is that something that you would
I absolutely think anything is possible these days. And I think for me, it's purely time. Like, I think I would. I think I'd absolutely love that, because part of my mission is ensuring that we have access, like, everywhere, whether it is ebook, whether it is hard copy, paperback, audiobook is in there. Look, a stage performance now. Screen. It's like woo. But what was it? But absolutely. That's that love. I need to learn about it. See, this is the other thing. Like, hey, so how do you do it? Like, show me the YouTube clip.
I mean, I think in New Zealand, I mean, obviously Audible, with all their rules and stipulations and all that, the way that you do audiobooks. But I think in New Zealand there's, I can't remember the company, but I think in New Zealand it might just be easier to do audiobooks through there. Like, I listened to Dawn Raid, the New Zealand story. Pauline Vailuanga Smith, I think it was. Yeah, I listened. I had been trying to get a copy. It's so difficult over here to get copies of our books. So, which is why a lot of the times, if I can get the ebook online, I get the ebook. But I was trying, like, let me tell you what I had to do to get a copy of Pauline's book, which turned out to be an audiobook. So it couldn't be delivered to Japan. So then I literally had to sign up in Australia. Like, I had to go to an Australian book site, sign up there, and they had apps that was connected to this Japanese book site.
Oh my God.
And then through there, then I had to download the Japanese app, and then I could transfer my purchase that I brought in Australia online to the Japanese app. And then finally I was able to listen to Pauline Vailuanga Smith's book, which was actually done in New Zealand. No jokes. I was just, I told my brother, oh, you would not believe what I had to do to read this book. I loved it. I enjoyed it, obviously, but, you know, I was just like, it's just such a mission. You know, so yeah.
I think it's crazy. I was like, when you were talking about Australia, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. And then
I would have called my friend up on free messenger and be like, Sunga, just read it to me.
For real, man. And then when I was listening to the audiobook, after all of that, trying to get it, and then I was just like, but this person, I had issues with the person reading, you know, I just had a whole bunch of issues. I was like, stop it now. You know, I was just like, this is not what I imagined to be. You know, I had just these preconceived ideas. I was like, stop it right now. But I enjoyed it. It was actually really good. But
that's good.
Yeah.
At least you got it.
Eventually, like, literally took me a few days, because then I had to figure out the translation on the Japanese app, and I was like, oh my gosh. But you're doing some work with Te Papa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Te Papa. How cool.
I know.
How cool is that? But you're a local. I mean, local in the area. So
yeah.
How exciting is that?
Oh, Sunga, it was so exciting when they reached out to me, and that was last year. Yeah, they reached out to me last year. I was like, they were like, oh, would you like to come in and have a meeting? And then I was just like, yeah. Like, of course. You're like, hey.
Who would turn that down?
Exactly. And then I was buzzing. And then when they explained to me the project around the children's book, the first Samoan bilingual one they're going to do, about our mea sina,
Yes.
and having to work alongside Sean Mellon, who did the Tatao book. He's amazing, and Rachel Yates, the senior curators of the Pacific collections there. That was awesome. Like, it was almost, you have those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, the world accepting us? Like,
Yeah. Right.
wow, like big stage, like. So it was a little moment like that where I had to kind of pinch myself. And then it's always exciting in terms of the work. I'm a real worker bee, so when I get something, like I said, I'm a doer, so then I go straight into Zoom, and then it's like, sweet, work, writing, editing, making sure everything's right. I'm selecting the mea sina for the book, making sure I'm getting feedback from cultural advisors and things like that. And then when it actually came, like the advanced copy, just like, I was like, oh my gosh, did we make this?
Yeah.
And that's how I know when I've done kind of good work, is when I can't remember.
It's like, it's me. No.
Yeah, like I literally zone in where I can't. That's what happened with Tina Samoa, and why I wrote it over a week. Like, there's parts, it's so funny when I read over it. And obviously my husband's heard it a lot more for him, because I'd get him, because we were in COVID lockdown. So I was like, read this, does this make sense? Like, he was just like, yeah, leave me alone.
Enough.
Exactly. And then but yeah, so that was like, Tina Samoa was done over a week, over obviously days, and then that just happened. Same with the Te Papa book, going to Te Papa, and it was amazing. It was really, really an exciting experience. And I'm very much excited about firsts of things. Right. So I was like, man, yes, because my Mila's My Gagana series was like the first of having integrated language. And I know people were afraid of that, because I talked to a publisher before the publisher who had picked it up. What was it? And they had said, oh, I don't know if we'd do that because it's code crossing, and we don't really just slot in the word. And then I was explaining, but this is how our generation speaks.
Right.
And
we're code switching all the time.
Yeah, we're code switching all the time. And I'd rather have my children code switching and being engaged with our language, or trying and developing their confidence along the way, so that they can get to sentence level, rather than, no, don't do that. Go from one word to full on fluency. So that opened my eyes to the whole diverse language needs that we really need to meet. But yeah, so in terms of the first, very, very exciting to be part of that, and to have like a baby book. Like,
it was awesome.
It's just like, I wish I had that book when I was like, when my kids were babies. I was like, now they're 7 and 9. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just so exciting to see, where you are now. I mean, I know, like, you're about to, Samoan Language Week is coming up, and you're about to release more books. I mean, did you see this a year ago, 2 years ago? I mean, are you one of those people who kind of like, this is my short-term goal, now I've got my long, are you one of those planners? Like, did you kind of foresee this? Was this kind of like something that you had always wanted, like, we're going to do this in this month, and then we're going to release here, and then, or have these opportunities just kind of like given you more inspiration and motivation to be like, nothing's going to stop me now, I'm going to try and get out as much? Do you know what I mean? Like, has this been long time coming kind of thing, especially with Te Papa, and now you've got some, your next lot of books dropping, which I'll ask you about before we wrap up, later. But yeah, like, are you one of those planners, or are you just kind of like taking a leap of faith? Just keep taking a leap as you go.
Yeah, also, no, what was it? That's a really good question. I'm a bit of both. I'm a big time planner, like I said, keep on saying, like, I'm such a doer. Like, if I say it, I'm doing it. and I'm doing it right. It has to be done the
Right.
right way. So I think that works in my favor. But definitely a planner. In terms of big picture stuff, I can be sometimes, but it freaks me out sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm married to my husband, Brene Malaeulu, and he is a director of an empowerment. It's called Empowerment Training and Leadership. So he's a kind of coach to people, and thankfully, I'm like, yo,
coach me.
I know. And like, so he helps organizations and businesses like develop their vision, their mission statements, their culture and their people within the workplace. So then I kind of piggyback on him and being like, so this is what I'm thinking. And then he's a big thinker. He's like, well, you could do this, and then you can go into cartoons, and you can go. And I'm like, Sole, like
cartoons.
Yeah. I'm like, I just want a book, and then I talk about it, but I'm one of those, I have to see what's in front of me. If I look too far ahead, it can freak me out. So I feel like I look just enough ahead for me to keep going. So the Mila's Mangangana series, that was since 2014. Now that it's out with our new publisher, there's literally going to be 4 stories every year until I stop, basically.
Awesome.
So that's for the junior middle primary school. And then I had these other stories that I developed while I was waiting for Mila's Mangangana series, the first one to come out. And they became the Mila's my Anganu'u series. So the Anganu'u is meaning culture in Samoan. It helps to develop our cultural knowledge, our kids' cultural knowledge, or our Samoan cultural knowledge, as well as elements within our culture, values, beliefs, so that it's not just language. It started off as language. Now I want the elements of culture, even bits of our history integrated into the stories. And then at the end of the year, we will end up having Tama Samoa, which will be kind of like the brother sequel.
That's so cool.
Samoa, which kind of leads its way into what I've thought about as like a Mila's My Whaasino Manga series, which is Whaasino Manga in Samoan means identity. So it's kind of like we've got language, culture, identity. Yeah, and that's just in terms of coverage for our primary, intermediate, high school as well. So then, so that's what I said at the moment. I've had people ask me about, man, are there going to be cartoons? Are there? I was like, oh my gosh, I wish, because one of the, even if it's not my stories, but just I wish something
that would be so. I mean,
my kids were learning Spanish. That's another reason why I had to write the books, because of Dora the Explorer. Like, they were like, oh yeah, uno, dos, and I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, honey, I was like, if your grandparents come around and they hear you say Spanish, I'm gonna get it. Like, you need to stop.
Oh man.
But
cartoons.
Yeah, absolutely. And not there needs to be a variety, I feel like, of shows as well. Like, my kids are now getting into tofinga, getting into the comedy and cracking up, because they're like, oh, that's how Pa talks. And I'm like, hey, don't like
say that in front of them.
Yeah, I know. I was like, this is called silently mocking. So they're getting to that age, but I almost wish there was. We've always had the comedy side, we've always had the Siva performance when the event happens. But where's the educational learning, even series of shows that don't necessarily have to reinforce our stereotypes? Or
I was going to say,
that has to have that side. Like, I want a whole variety of it. Like, not just like the last thing me and my husband were talking about. The last cartoon that we remember is Brotown. Like that was when we were growing up. And we thought, oh, that was cool. And then you kind of look at it, it's like, yeah, this is just based on all the stereotypes.
It's racist in a kind of a way, but it's stereotypical. And
but then we kind of get excited because we can see ourselves. Like, you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, is there other things like that can balance it? Like, we have a show that's kind of got you know, the soft, the beautiful side of it.
Yeah.
Like,
that celebrates the not so
yes.
stereotypical and the not atypical,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think they're waiting for you to develop
Yeah.
it.
Well, funny
You
with
know?
I actually think one of our stories that are coming out, our self-published ones, the Mila's Manganu'u ones, the two picture book stories, they are amazing. Like, I'm so, like, that literally make me want to cry when I look at them. And what was it? One is Fale Samoa, and I think that story could easily be a kids cartoon program, like easily. Like, and it's funny because I always talk about my stories like I didn't write them. Like, I'm like, yeah, and then it got tweaked so much that it's a rhyming story. It ended up being a rhyming story, so that's something nobody knows that I'm letting you know, Rosa.
Now we've got to get like a track. Now we've got to put the song together. Then we got to get the dance. Oh,
Yeah.
come on!
I'm like,
now.
After this Telenor, I'm gonna be like, Rosa, you must as well just be my manager. You can do the audio book, you can do the cartoons.
Oh my gosh, man. You got me so excited here because just this energy, like, and just I'm hearing your stories, I'm hearing your plans and going, wow, there's so much more to come. It's not just stopping here, right? Like, what pandemic?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just waiting for you, Rosa, so your stories can come out.
Oh man, I didn't know. Writing a book sounds so difficult, but I'm listening to you and I'm getting super motivated and inspired.
Yeah,
But
I mean, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, please just write something, like anything. I don't know if it's because it's the teacher in me. Like, I had this talk with my friend the other day. And she was saying, she works in educational publishing. She's absolutely amazing. And she was saying it can be quite difficult to get our people to write their story because of either time, of either understanding, of either making sure they're conveying the right message and people not wanting to muck it up.
Right.
And then I'm such a optimist. I'm like, no, I'll help them write it. Like, it's the teacher. Like, no one's like, nothing's impossible. No one's unhelpable. No one is unteachable. And that's what was it? Even especially our own people. And it's almost like as soon as you can connect better, even with our kids and with us, man, you can unlock the potential. Like, there is hidden gems within our people and within our te that are unlocked by the right kind of people who can connect and relate with us. And that was my number one thing when I was a teacher that I learned was it was literally already in us. Like, it is already in us as Pasifika. The superhero power is us being Pasifika.
Yeah.
And the day that we realize it individually and collectively, that this is an asset, that who we are and what we are is an asset, it is such a diamond in the rough, something that needs to be developed, that it literally unlocks a whole new world for us. And I just feel like as soon as that happens, it's like game over. Like, we realize it, we develop that confidence. Ancestors even are like, oh yes, about time. This is why we did or what we did, we said before. And it's beautiful as an educator when you can see it in our students, and that's why when I get told about Pasifika as writers, I'm like, oh no, you just haven't connected with them, right? Or their story that they're trying to convey may not necessarily meet your Whalangi criteria.
Right, and the construct. Right?
The construct,
I was just going to say, because there is a certain way that we are taught how to write. Yeah. But it's like, but who said it? Oh, it's because it's what we've always done. Yeah, but who? What? Why do we always do it that way? Don't question the teacher, don't question. Like, they need to, if we're trying to amplify the voices of our young people, then there need to be strategies in place. They need to be really kind of like broadening the tools and resources and texts being used in the classroom so that it is catering for the faces looking at you, that you're not just kind of turning up and going, okay, so today we're going to read Shakespeare because we just do that every year, but if you're going to teach Romeo and Juliet, you should be drawing on many, like multiple examples of ways that same story has been retold throughout different countries. And like it's just they need to broaden access for students, for young people, because
absolutely
we're just as educators, it's just so easy to get stuck. And there's absolutely, like, it's 2021. Wait, is it 2021? It's 2021. My primary school teacher said that in 2020 there would be cars flying around. What a liar. I didn't see cars flying around. But side note, it is 2021. Therefore, we need to, there is absolutely no excuse to, like, I get that curriculums and things are in place. I get that. But I think as educators, like, there's no excuse to not be looking outside the norm and what is usually presented as this is what we're going to do. Like, I think if it will take a long time to kind of, break some of these things in the curriculum, but there's no reason why you can't go and make your lessons and classes more enjoyable and more engaging for the learners in front of you. You can't just, it's beginning of every year, get up and like, let's just continue and do the same thing, because that's when our kids are sitting there like, I was that kid.
Yeah.
Talking about honest. The back of the classroom going,
yeah, same old. That's right. And like, the number one like rule in teaching is really getting to know your kids and getting to know your students. Building those relationships.
What are they like? What are they into? Who are they? Where do they come from? How many languages do they speak? All of that,
And I almost feel like for our kids, like the best teaching years and the best relationships I have with all my kids, it went beyond that surface. Okay, name, where do you live, what culture, like who's your mom, who's your dad, who's your auntie, like it's all the surfacey stuff. But it's almost like, man, like what really pushes your buttons, what makes you crack up, what makes you laugh. It was all the underneath things that I could utilize, and I could connect with my students, so that once the connections happen, sweet, that means I'm in. And when I'm in, I'm going to create these opportunities, these unconscious learning opportunities, or these conscious opportunities and experiences for you, because you trust me now and I trust you, and we're in this partnership that I got your back and you got mine. So then that means we're sweet. We're in a partnership, and we're together in this. And if you need me, sweet, I'll be here. If I need you, I'll let you know. And I was always had these relationships with these kids across my teaching career, and Talanoa was a huge part of it. And I think what people don't realize is that within Talanoa, when we say it, it's not just talking. Like in Talanoa, we ata, we have a laugh. There's that humor. I think it's Timothy Violetti, actually, when I think of the framework that it comes from. And there's also fa'aloalo, there's respect in it. There's also the warmth, mawhanawhana, and the biggest one, it's all underpinning is alofa. So it could be a not so good conversation or talanoa happening. All those elements still need to be present in it. It could be an absolute celebration of achievement. All those elements are part of that talanoa. So that's been real key, a real big key for me as an educator. And even in this author world and networking and kind of reading things and kind of, I think they kind of take me because I love to talanoa. Like, can you tell? Like, it's like,
no, I couldn't. I was like, really? No.
I know. Yeah, it's like after midnight. Yeah, but and I think they're like, whoa. Like, I'm sure writers are meant to be quiet. I'm like,
I love it. I love it. I love your vibe. So seriously, I mean,
I feel like it just lets people know it's all good. Like, So, because I think I'm used to when you go into a room, an unfamiliar room with people who aren't necessarily your color, naturally what I used to do was shrink and be like, okay, be quiet, don't be noticed, like just nod and smile. But now I obviously don't rock up into a room and be like, yeah, party's here, but it's but I'm just myself. Like I'm like Talofa lover, like and I actually use our language. I say my name, I say it twice. I can't say it right. I help them say it. Whereas there was a time before I wouldn't. Like I'd just be like, just say it wrong. Yeah.
Just hurry up.
Yeah. It's like okay. But yeah, so I feel like with me being myself, I can hopefully enable others to be themselves. And being Pasifika, brown, loud, and proud is beautiful. Like it really is. And the intention and the heart and the lofa behind it is the best. It's second to none in the world. And I just I want them to remember. I want people to remember when they meet me that that you can tell an all with me. You can share things. I can share things with you that there can be rapport and relationships built. But I think I've always been like that, and it's kind of worked in my favor as an educator as well. So yeah.
I've got a few questions that have nothing to just some random questions. Favorite Samoan food? What do you like to eat? Favorite Samoan food?
Favorite Samoan food? I'm gonna go with kalo because I just had kalo before.
Oh my God, stop it! I can't wait to come home, man. I'm like,
Did you know I used to I taught English in Japan for a year?
You?
Yeah, I was in Osaka.
Oh wow!
So in Nipponbashi, right in the city.
Oh yeah.
And what was it? My parents used to send me like monthly care packs, like of peaceful, even 2-minute noodles. Like,
Yeah. I used to come when I come home during summer break, our summer New Zealand winter. I have a list of things that I want to eat, and because I'm not, people always ask, "What do you miss? Do you miss this and that?" And I'm like, "Not really. I have this list, and when I come home, I'm like, gotta have a cream donut. Once I've had it, I'm good. Gotta have a steak and cheese pie. Once I've had it, I'm good. I'm good for the next year until I come home. Like, gotta have some super. I might have a little bit more than one, but my friends are like, "You want us to send you super?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm all good." But there have been times where I come home and my mom's like, "Fafa uma apangai abeno akapau." I'm like, "No shame, yo." And the akapau, putting it in my suitcase, like no shame at all. And I'm sure when I rock up to the airport, they're like. Because when I arrive, I'm like, I hope they don't bust me with my bisupo and my in my suitcase. But yeah, Samoan food. I mean, I miss all that. But once I've had it, when I come home, I'm like, other than oka, which I can raw fish, which I can eat all the time. Yeah. Everything else, I'm like, I've had it once and I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. A place you've always wanted to travel to?
Cabo San Luca.
Nice. Superhero, alter ego.
Oh, if Beyonce was a superhero, I'd be actually she is a superhero.
For real.
I'm sure Kingy is not from this earth. No,
right. I'm sure she's got some Samoan in her. I mean,
yeah,
for real. Hello.
That's right.
If someone read a book about you, what would be the title?
Oh, good question. It would be Malanga. That's what I should have said.
Oh, but that still leads to my next question, actually. What is a dream that you have yet to fulfill?
On the bucket list, absolutely, is going back home to Samoa to live. To either have a stint or like at least a year back home, either supporting in some way, creating books, creating stories, being fully immersed in our language. Be amazing. It's like I almost want to have a gap year as an adult from life. Just to be like,
do it.
Yeah, just to be like, I'm gonna do this, for language. Like, you know, to just do
You
it.
can say it's a research project for a book or something, you know, wink, wink.
Yeah. See, that's why you need to be my manager.
Oh, hey, just let me know. I'm there. I am so there. What do you actually do? I know this sounds like, what do you do outside of writing? But I mean, in terms of like self-care, like what's something that you like to do to treat yourself? I mean, I know you're a mother. I know you've got your duties. I know you've got your writing and you're doing promotion currently for your new releases. But in terms of looking after you, you know, your health and mental well-being, what do you do? Like, how do you look after yourself?
Yeah. Probably exercise and walking. Like I always have to have a mental break. I've always been sporty growing up, and a lot of growing up in Wainui, sports was everything. So always been sporty, always had that bug, always have to be moving. So for me, it's literally just getting out, getting away, going for good long walks, and then kind of coming back to it. Yeah.
And so, aside from writing, have you read any books recently, or do you get time to like read? I mean, have you read a book outside of your current works? You know,
Yeah.
Have you read anything recently?
Yes. I had a little stash in preparation for this one. I was like, there's a couple of important books. There's actually one that I absolutely keep going back to because it was given to me by my mother. And she was a big Oprah fan, and then she discovered Iyanla Van Sant from Spiritual Guide, but Faith in the Valley, and it's lessons for women on the journey to peace. So my mother had this, and she would read it all the time, and then she passed it down to me, and it's got beautiful, beautiful lessons that I like to kind of go back to, or like daily inspiration, or kind of helping me to ground myself, or to just breathe, because I'm sometimes go too much.
I think I need that book.
Yeah. And then I keep writing courses, and then I forget about things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right, I wrote that. So that one, and Afkasi Woman.
Yes.
Lani went. Like I think I'll always remember Lani as her being the first Samoan woman author to read her book and to see elements of our culture and history and our language, even what it was like back home. Like I'd even imagine in her tell us our stories when she's talking about Samoa College, because one of my mother's villages, Vaiaso, which is where just a road literally away from Samoa College. And I would literally like make up these ideas of, I wonder what it was like going to school then. And then I was reading her stories like, oh, that must be what it was like. Just helping me. Yeah, I was like, wow. So, I always have a soft spot for Lani because it's opened my eyes to like, wow, we can be valued. This is awesome. And her writing can be just so everyday and so simplistic, and so, but then elements of beauty and like the words and the language just takes you to another place. And I never really had thought about it, like ever reading something and enjoying something like that. So that's been good. And then another woman that I love is Brene Brown.
Okay.
Love Brene Brown. So this is that whole real life book stuff that I like to read. And then another one was this one. Don't know if you've seen it. Black Marks on the White Page. So that's from Wate Ehimara and Tina Makareti. And it's an anthology of stories. And it's beautiful because they talk about it being a book of talanoa and encouraging people to come join the conversation. So Oceania authors, and
I'm gonna look that up.
yeah, make sure, because the thing I love about this book is because it has, everyone's contributed, but they've done it in their own way. So there's art in here, there's short stories, there's poems, there's pictures. I mean, Selena Tustalamash, she
yes, fast looking PR. What is it?
yes,
Fast looking PR,
yes.
right?
So she's done a piece in here, and it's freaking, look at that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I did an activity like this with my students years
Yeah.
ago, and to see, do you see what I mean about like about the, oh my gosh, she just did 13 sentences, like
That is awesome.
so it just like it blew my mind, and it just yeah. So it just goes to show, more so than being an author, I feel like we're creatives, like
absolutely.
and like writing, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Performance, if that's your thing, that's your thing. If it's art, if it's graphics, if it's design, that's your thing. But I feel like we're all united because we're all storytellers. So writing is just the medium or just the vehicle, but at the end of the day, and all of us is a storyteller with so many stories left to share that the world needs.
That's the mic drop right there. That is the mic drop. I was waiting for this moment. That was it. Sis. Wow.
Hey.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I was like so like I had all this like thing. I gotta ask this. I gotta do it. But you know, conversation. It just flowed. I'm so grateful. You have no idea. You know, when I reached out to you, like I gotta say this, when I reached out to you, I was so shocked that you yes. Because I, you know, when I see her, I'm like, she's so busy. She is so busy. But I just kind of was like, I got nothing to lose. But if it's a yes, if it's a no, it's all good. And when you were like, yeah, sure, get back in touch with me at the I was like, I was like, if there was an emoji like that, that was me. I was like super great.
I was really looking forward to this because I think because there's no expectation and there's no pressure because it's just like, oh sweet, like
you're just hanging out.
Yeah,
you're just hanging out.
Like, should I wear my hoodie or should I wear
well, it was funny that because I was like,
should it be too relaxed?
I was like, I'm sure we'll just, it's not, don't try and outshine the guest. Don't try and outshine the guest.
What a crack up. But here's the other thing. I forgot to tell you about the Siva Afitene tour story. Like, I think you're going to love that story. There's another story I forgot about, like, how I wrote it. And it was like, but that's the book that comes out with the Fale Samoa storybook I was telling you about. It was inspired by, do you know Moe Moana Schwenke?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, her mother was the ex-Samoa.
Oh yes,
Ex-Miss Samoa, the Matavai.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was inspired literally by a picture. Like I saw a picture of her doing sivafi, and it just, you know how sometimes you see things and then you're just like, man, like there's a story in that. Like it's just so much beauty, so much strength, so much ancestry you can feel from an image and things. So yeah, it's just amazing the things that for me personally that pop out to me. And I just think we see this stuff all the time, and I just think sometimes if we just stop and pause, you'll see that there's a story in everything. And I just hope that everyone can realize their own stories as well. Even when they look in the mirror, when they look at their family, when they look at their, you know, sitting at the church pongo and like just looking out to the crowd, that there's stories there. Like they could be telling a story of what they're seeing. So, yeah, pretty cool. But thank you so much. So good.
So inspired me. I'm like, do I need to write a book?
Yes. We're like, that's my condition. Coming on your show, you gotta go write a book.
But yes, again, I know, you know, it's like it's late in New Zealand, but again, thank you for coming through. You know, much love and blessings for, you know, plans and what's left in this year. I mean, we're not even halfway through the year, but it feels like it, right? And I know New Zealand's back to normal because it's like there was no COVID there, whereas here we feel like masked up and everything. So, you know, maybe one day, you know, when I come home, I would love, it'll be cool to finally meet for real, for real. But yeah, you know, all the best also, like, love your work. You know, I will continue to just, you know, everyone deserves their flowers. Why not? We need to do more uplifting and supporting our, you know, our writers and just creatives out there. It's super important. If we're not doing it, who's doing it? So, you know, I appreciate you. Thank you.
No, totally love her for everything that you do. You and your bookstagrammers. Honestly, I was so new to Instagram last year because what was it? I think Lani was one of them. She was like, "You need to go on Instagram. You need to," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even keep up with Facebook." I'm like, you have to manage all of this. Like you have to, and like you said, it's time and energy. But it's just interesting learning about the different who's out there, like, and who's doing what. And you and people like you and your bookstagrammer, Instagrammer crew, you guys are really paving a way for our people to be able to share what their thoughts are
I mean,
on our stories. Like we've been dying for reviewers because Palangi reviewers, unfortunately, as amazing as they are, they won't have that level of understanding that we do or that we need for our books to be able to be shared and the messages to be shared accurately. So thank you so much for everything. I totally love it for everything that you guys do and that you share on your platforms.
No, I know it's late there, sis, but yeah, I mean, this is it's it was actually it was raining all day today.
Oh no,
it's gone cold again. So if you see my interviews, it's spring here, but I'm wearing a hoodie, like it's so cold. And I'm just, it's meant to be like really, you know, they were like, oh, it's getting warmer, but now it's like so cold again.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, random.
Yes.
Well, I hope you're staying safe with everything going on over there. Honestly.
I mean, COVID, I mean, we're still, the Olympics are in like 2 months or something. No, in July. So not long, but they're not even, they don't have the COVID thing under control. I'm coming home for our summer break we finish on the 11th and then I'm flying out on the 12th and arrive June.
Oh, June.
Yeah, so
not too long then.
Yeah, I haven't been home since last year in January. So I came home in January just before they started doing all the checking over here, and then by March everything had like shut down. So I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to coming to see my family and.
Hey. Yeah, and where are you based? Where are you based back in New Zealand?
Auckland. So, yeah. I know I come back and I really don't miss Auckland because it's like the traffic, people are just loud, road rage. I can't deal with that. Like I usually go to Dunedin. My brother, he lives in Dunedin. He studies there. Cool. So I usually go down there. They're cold. Their winter is like Tokyo winter. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's really cold, but I like Dunedin because it's so quiet.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, you're like, you need your own library. That's what you need. Like,
don't even get me started. Like, it's just, like here at my very good friend, she's a teacher librarian at our school, and she gets all these new books because I teach social justice. And so she gets a lot of the books, and a lot of the books I read is through her, like especially work related social justice kind of issues I read, and it's all from her. So she'll if you go test it out, go read this, and if I need stuff, I just ask her. So she's super helpful, and I'm so grateful to have her there. But oh my gosh, if I had my own library, that would be it. I would never leave. I'll be like hibernating for years. That would be me.
Thank you for reaching out. Sunga, this is the way to do it these days. It's like no shame in the game. It's just like, what have I got to lose? Oh, nothing.
Well, I was thinking, because like when I thought about this podcast thing, like basically everyone that has come on, they're all my friends, and they're just doing a lot. You know, they're teachers. you know, they're educators, they're creatives, musicians, and they're, you know, in their parts of the world, they're just doing amazing things. They really, basically, they inspire me so much. And I feel like, you know, they have stories to tell, and I want people to hear their stories, you know. But then part of it was also like, I've got more people coming on, and
I'm really blessed, grateful to be in a position now that I can share stories and provide a voice or avenue or spaces for enabling others to be able to, because that's part of I think what I want to make sure that people realize, that I'm just an everyday Samoan, New Zealand, you know, Samoan New Zealander who is a mother, is a teacher, a husband, a Samoan father who calls her every 10 minutes about the remote being lost, you know, doing Vaiaso, still, like, you know, that it's possible. Like, everyday person like me can actually do it. And if I can, so can our people. So that's why I really, really want people, our people, to value our stories, our own stories, and feel that they have a story to tell, because they do, man. Like, we do. We hear it all the time. And we could have published volumes of books with the
encyclopedia
stories that we've told. Honestly, we really could have. And we still can. And I feel like it'll be our generation and the next generation that'll be able to do that. I mean, because the void is so huge as well. You know, I feel like the Palangi way would be to compete and to try to push each other out to be that number one. But the void is so huge that there's enough room for everybody. Like, and I feel like the Pasifika way is being able to support and to help each other up, to kind of go, nah, sis, like, jump on board. Like, I can't do this alone. We need more people. We need everybody. Yeah, so it's going to be so cool, so exciting. And with people like you supporting as well, and then eventually writing their own books.
Oh, it's just like, when I hear you, like, I'm super inspired. And like, you know, I have friends who have written books, and I just, you know, when I hear you, it reminds me of them, because they're same thing, just energy, vibes, super passionate. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Honestly, just give it a try. If you give it honestly, we're all the same. I'm sure we all start the same. That we're all like, hey, look at who wrote this. Oh yeah, I wrote it. It's like, oh, that's right. And then you share it, and it just the right content, the right audience. Then it really ends up finding a home. Like, it's just it's amazing how it ends up working out, but it can work out. And there are people who are just publishing left, right, and center. And it just goes to show that it's possible. And I just want more of our people telling our own stories, because we can. So yeah, so Rosa, you're next. No.